you ready to live more authentically and explore who you truly are? Would you love to know how to get there? Hi, I am Jamie Graham Duprey, teacher, author, coach, and host of The Second Half. Throughout the show, we will consider how we can be people who show up honestly, speaking in truth and love, and vulnerably, sharing and reflecting on life experiences. You will be encouraged to make connections in your life that will dare you to explore powerful growth, personally, vocationally, and spiritually. Are you ready to consider how to develop and nurture a growth mindset, take ownership of your life, and create action steps that lead you to being bold, brave, and healthy? The second half starts now. Good morning. I am your host, Jamie Graham Duprey. Thank you so much for joining today. I have a friend, colleague, coach with me today that I'm so excited to introduce and to have a conversation with. Deenna Eley is my partner. We coach each other most months, and it has been so fun over these last 5 years or so to coach in these spaces. So Deenna, would you please say good morning and introduce yourself to our lucky listeners today?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deenna Eley, and I am a coach. I am a pantry director, and my greatest gift and job is then a wife and a mom. And I'm
Yeah.
so honored and privileged to be here. So thank you, Jamie.
Oh, my pleasure. Yes. Every time we get to have a conversation, I always leave encouraged and energized by you, Deenna. So today we have another very broad topic, parenting. So we'll say that word and just take a second to think about what comes up for us when we say parenting. So I'll just open it up there. Deenna, one reason we chose this topic is because in our coaching sessions with each other, we often find ourselves reflecting on this, how we're doing as parents, what seasons we are in, and your kids are just in that next season above mine. So there's lots of parallels, and I always want to hear your experiences because I know it won't be long until I'm there as well. So what's on your heart to share today when we explore parenting?
Oh, my heart. Well, I will say that, first of all, my heart is overwhelmed when I think about parenting and the the joy, but also the hard work that comes with being a parent.
Mm.
And and just I was reflecting this morning about my kids. My oldest Noah is 28. My middle is Josh, who's 25, and our youngest is Micah, who's 19. And so we are in that season of empty nesting, and so it's been a really big year of transitioning as a parent this year. And there's a lot of emotions when I think about parenting right now.
Yes, and we were talking recently, and I love the flip that you used. Instead of the empty nest, sometimes that can feel kind of sad or or lonely or I don't know.
Yep.
And what was how do you explore that now and share about what you've done with your kiddos and how that transition has gone?
Yeah, so Micah, our youngest, went to college in August,
Mm.
and I was not prepared. I don't think that you can be prepared for when your last child leaves home. The other two are a little bit older, so I always had Micah to fall back on. And so when Micah left, it was a very difficult, challenging, emotional season. I mean, I'm still in it, but just um, I just allowed myself to grieve and not to feel like I should know how to handle this, because two of my other kids had already gone off to college and are living their lives, but just really sat with the grief and
Mm.
really kind of considered it a rite of passage, similar to childbirth. Like, you can hear the stories and people can try and tell you their experiences, but you don't really understand that or can really prepare until you're going through it. So I would tell you that this year has been a year of transition, transitioning from a mom who had her kids at home to a mom who gets to show up in their lives differently. And that's a transition. It's a letting go and then getting excited for what's next.
Yeah, I love that. And we had talked about launching the birds. That was
Yeah,
the
bird launcher. Bird launcher, yes. So instead of being an empty nester, we've launched our birds. Yeah, I listened to a podcast from Mel Robbins, and she was launching her third child off to college at the same time we were launching Micah. And she said she didn't like that term empty nester. And I agree with her. And I love the idea of launching birds. And that's the other part of parenting is watching your kids be successful. Like, yes, two of them have launched and they have been very successful, but then trying to use that experience of the other two and cultivate that excitement and that encouragement into the third and telling him he's going to be awesome and we're excited for that instead of being sad and letting my emotions, kind of be on him. You don't want to burden him with my emotions, right? So I was really careful to make sure that I was able to be positive and excited for him, and then also tend to my own grief. And so that has been kind of a balancing act, but being authentic and transparent about my journey as a mom and saying that this has been hard for me, but also then being able to show him that I'm able to allow myself that space, but also to do something good in taking care of myself.
I'm glad you mentioned that balancing piece, that fine line we walk of honoring our own grief and sadness, but not laying that on our kids, because I don't think we do that intentionally, but lots of times by things we say or maybe don't say, our kids can interpret that as, oh my goodness, my parents are going to be so sad without me. What are they going to do? And that puts a little pressure on them. And we don't want that. We want them to be confidently launched and know that we'll be okay. And we're not their responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then just also being able to be authentic and transparent about how difficult this is, but it also gives me the opportunity to show how to tend to my own emotions and take care of myself. Through coaching, Jamie, we've talked, like you said, we've had many coaching sessions about parenting and how to be a better parent and what am I carrying and how do I want to handle that, or what do I want to do to be better in the space. And so I would say to you that coaching through the season has been a huge gift. And it has made all the difference. Well, actually, through all the seasons of parenting, but especially through this one, because I want to grieve well so that I'm not carrying this grief and this transition of my mother, being a mother, into the next chapter, to the second half of life.
Awesome. Yeah, and we will discuss that more in depth in the second half of today's show. So when you think about, you have such great self-awareness. I love the language you're using, honoring the grief, naming it, processing it with the goal of being authentic. I think of the word identity that comes up a lot in these conversations, who we are as a parent. Sometimes that can swallow us up a little bit. So can you think about a time, Deenna, over the years and in your parenting and your life as mother and spouse, that maybe was an aha moment or was a pivot point for you where you realized you really needed to think about not just your kids and just the parenting piece, but all the other pieces of you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I remember it well. It was when my kids, Noah was in high school and he was getting close to becoming a senior, and Josh was just entering in high school. And I realized that I had been structuring my life. My life was automatic default to be a parent and to take my kids to all the things, to make sure they were fed, so that was how I was living. But it occurred to me that they would be leaving soon. And I realized that I didn't want to have this season in my life where I was grieving and that I wasn't happy because I didn't take care of what I had. And that was basically my relationship with Mike. Like, I realized that I was sacrificing making him a priority to be the mom to all the kids. And I had to realign myself
Mm.
into saying who's most important. Well, of course, God's most important, but then my husband, and I wasn't making him a priority. It was always the kids and taking care of the kids. And so I had this shift where my kids were going to graduate, they were going to go and do their things, but then how was my life? How was our relationship? And I had to really take a moment to say, I needed to be a better wife. I needed to be grateful for the hard work he was doing, because he worked very hard to support our family. And I was at times resentful because I felt like I had to do all the things for the kids. And when I shifted, and it was through coaching, by the gift of God, by introducing that into my life at this time, I was able to make the shift to say that I wanted to have a happy marriage. I wanted to be excited for Mike and I when our kids had launched. And so I started really changing my attitude and being grateful, and really being more attentive to Mike, so that when the kids did go, that we would be in a good place, and a place where we could be excited about what was next, and we liked each other and we wanted to be together. And it wasn't that resentment that I had as the mom, taking care of three very active boys.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. And I thank you for naming that. The word resentment is something my spouse, Jeremy, has been really good at bringing up, what potential resentment there could be between the two of us, with our kids, all kinds of things with vocationally. So I appreciate that you mentioned that it is really easy, I think, as a parent, and for you and I, and our specifically as mothers, that's what we know, how you can really put so much time and energy and thought into the kids that you lose sight of other roles you play that are very important. And if we let that resentment get to us and build up, and there's that bitterness, things can really go off the rails. And then if you're in the season of life where you are, where you have adult children now, and you haven't tended to your own needs, or the needs of your partnership, with a partner or a spouse, like, then you can probably feel really lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's already hard enough, like Jamie, to launch the last one and to be in a great place with your spouse,
Hmm.
but then to not tend to it and not have that good relationship. Oh, that would be awful.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're just about to head into our little commercial break here at halftime. Go ahead, and listeners, please stand up, stretch your legs, grab a drink of water, cup of coffee, tea. And then when we come back, Deenna and I are going to delve a little bit deeper into the second half, the parenting space, when in this case, you have adult children. And as Deenna has talked about, considering what that looks like to tend to yourself and to your partner and other things in your life, to make sure that yes, we grieve, but we're not just sitting in that grief and staying lost without a forward focus. So we'll see you in just a couple minutes when we come back to the second half. Welcome back. I have my special guest, my friend and colleague and coach, Deenna Eley, with me, and we are talking about parenting. And Deenna has just shared so many things that are important for me to consider. So I still have my three kids under my roof, but our oldest is already a junior in high school. We have an 8th grader and a 5th grader, and Deenna's adult children are similarly separated in age, and she just launched her third out of the nest, as we said. So the word seasons has really felt like a theme today, and we are pre-recording, but this show will come out on Christmas Day. So when we think about seasons, that can mean so many things. it can mean the four seasons. You know, there's so many seasons within the season, for our students going through different seasons of school, and for us as parents, but specifically thinking of the holidays. Deenna, when you think about the topic that we are considering, when you're a parent and you're shifting into the second half from having children at home under your roof to adult children, and how that parenting shifts, what comes to mind for you as you anticipate these holiday seasons?
Change. What comes to mind is change. Yes, our family has expanded. Noah married Rachel almost 2 years ago in March. And
Mm,
so the holidays shifted and changed with Noah having another family to prioritize holidays with. And we've Josh has just proposed to his girlfriend Paige, and so we've again increased our family. So
mm,
this season of holidays for me is to just embrace each one as a gift and not to have expectations or to think that it has to be the same as it was, but to just really take each holiday and embrace whoever's going to be with us, where we're going to be, as a special gift of time and new traditions and opportunities to just create special memories that aren't necessarily going to be duplicated the next year because we
mm.
have more family, because the kids are adults and are living in different places. So it is another change and another opportunity to create something new and different as well.
I like how you connect that big word change to opportunity.
Yep.
Uh, I feel like, uh, for the most part, we're not great at managing change, but the reality is it's constant. And so, how have you gotten to that point, with being able to maybe hold loosely or let go of certain traditions and expectations throughout the years and seasons?
Well, to be honest with you, Jamie, the holidays for us, we've lived in Southern California and our family has lived in other places. So our little family has always been a little family. And
Mhm.
we've been adopted by another family, the Audis, who basically adopted us, and we've always spent every holiday with the Audis. So I think early on I learned, not to have high expectations, but just to be grateful for what we have. But as our family has changed and Noah moving to Idaho, and I just realized that it doesn't have to be the same, right? Like we're not the same person that we were last
Mm,
year. So why would the holidays be the same? Um, so I think that I've been able to embrace the change as an opportunity because I've been able to kind of do the inner work of
mm.
the change, if that makes sense. Like
It
because
does.
I've been able to tend to the changes and be able to name them and to grieve them or to do whatever work I need to do, that also reflects in how I see the holidays.
Hmm.
And really, truthfully, it's an opportunity to be with family. And if it's the only time I get with my adult children to be face to face, I want it to be good. I want it to be something that we all show up and go, oh my gosh, that was the best time we ever had. And regardless if it's for 2 hours or the whole day or a
Mm.
couple of days, I want us to just feel like we were so happy to be together. However, whatever that looks like, whether we ate sandwiches and played games all day, or if we did have like detailed, you know, opportunities of places and people to see that, I mean, that would be great. But whatever it is, I just embrace it as that is what it needs to be for this day, for this holiday, for this season.
Yeah, thank you. That just makes me smile hearing your openness, that the word embrace, and just being the being together part is what we have, what we have, and we can't let how that goes hinge on whether or not this tradition or that tradition happens, or we get to see everybody as much as maybe we wish we did. So on that, to just expand and think about the overall theme of this podcast when we talk about some of the formative experiences you had in parenting and that aha moment where you were noticing that resentment creeping in and what that could potentially do in negative ways. And now reflecting on you, Deenna, yes, mom, spouse, all the things. How are you feeling and what are you doing to tend to this who you are and being an intentional second half life
Mm.
liver?
Well, so as a parent, I realize that how I show up uh, is important. So I want to make sure that I'm tending to my emotions. So how am I taking care of myself? I'm making sure that I pay attention to how I feel. If there's a moment of sadness or if there's a moment of anxiety, that I name it, that I
Mm,
sit with it, that if I need extra help with it, like I need a friend or I need my coach or I need to process through how I'm going to get there to be the best parent I can be, to be the best version of myself. It's just, I think, full on acceptance, Jamie, to be able
mm,
just to allow myself to feel this way and that it's okay and that it's not forever. And that if I nurture it or if I name it, I can take care of it. And then it makes room for the ability to see things as opportunities, to show, to just to be the better person. And here's the thing, my kids are still watching me. My kids are
mm,
still learning from me. It
mm,
just looks different. And now I don't get to, I'm not in their life every day, but if they check in with me and I'm doing well and I'm thriving and I'm tending to the second half of my life because it's an opportunity for me to go and pursue all the things that I put on hold when my kids were young and they needed me differently. But
mm,
then to show them what that looks like and then to be healthy, to be thriving is another way of gifting my children in their lives because then they see mom and dad doing it and then they're I mean when my parents are doing well there's something very wonderful that happens, right? There's this peace, there's this contentment, and then when your parents are struggling then that brings on more of an emotional burden and stuff. And so not that we can avoid that, but I can certainly take care of myself to
mm.
be the best healthy version I can. So and help continue my kids to be
Yeah.
healthy, vibrant, and successful in their lives.
Yeah, I love your passion and the clarity that you have. And you used the word I was going to ask about of how are you uh, taking steps to, to be a healthy model. You use that word modeling.
Yeah.
Or that's the word I thought of when you talked about our kids watching us is like, I really often think about the phrase, do as I say, not as I do, practicing what you preach, because it's so easy, I think, to not do that. And the kids, arguably kids hear what we say, but more than anything, like you said, they're watching us. So how are we modeling healthy lives and tending, controlling what we can control? So can you share some specifics of your journey and what you are doing personally and vocationally to do these things?
Yeah, I would be happy to share that. I just have to say, my dad always told me, don't do as I do, do as I say. And I fought him like, no, dad, no, dad. That just drove me so crazy. And I think because that just drove me so crazy that I realized that that wasn't true, that I really did follow what they did. And as much as my dad didn't want that, it's the truth. And so knowing that and wanting to live the truth that I know in my heart that my dad tried to tell me different has been the thing. But I think what I'm doing is just being attentive to, because this is the first time in my whole life that I can pay attention to myself fully. And because of all the experiences, of all the things that have gotten me to be here at 54 years old, I can use that to grow all of it together in a healthy, vibrant way instead of trying to think that I needed to be something different. to do something different, but just to say, hey, this is me. And I really like who I am. It's taken a lot of work, and I've done a lot of coaching, and I've done a lot of processing, but because of all that, I can sit here with confidence and awareness that I have, done the work to show up healthy.
You have. I always admire that in you, Deenna, and I so appreciate that about you. And it encourages me in my phase of life to do the same, even when it gets pretty overwhelming. Sometimes I feel like
You're in it.
yeah,
You're in it.
managing the schedules of my 3 kids, could be the full-time job, the end, and that's okay. However, I want to make sure I'm exploring my own passions, tending my own growth, and figuring out things that bring me life so that I can model these things in the next season for my kids as well. So before we wrap up here in just a couple minutes, you've given so many nuggets and shared things that I'm just going to continue thinking about. But what advice would you give to parents in your phase, your season, and mine, and just kind of in general? What's some advice that you would just want to put out there or reiterate?
So Jimmy, you're in it. I would tell you, you're in it, and that's where you are, is basically where I had the epiphany that I needed to be different in order for the next half to be better. So keep doing what you're doing, but I say show up, be present, regardless of how hard it is, how many different schedules you're managing. Be present with them where they're at, because it goes by so quick, and you don't get this moment with them again. It's different and it changes, but just embrace this moment. And that's what I would say overall. Like, I'm embracing this moment as a parent. Yes, it's been hard, and yes, we're in a whole new season, but it's going to be a good one, because it's a different and it's a new one, and we have the tools and the resources to do and create what we want, how we want to do it.
Oh, thank you very much. I do take that to heart, and I hear that, and you could just keep telling me that every time we connect.
I will.
And remind others. Well, thank you so much for sharing about parenting and just exploring this wonderful, complicated topic with me, and just the encouragement for us and for those listening is to think about where you are, what season you're in, and how well are you tending to all of the things, those relationships yourself. Where does resentment sneak in? And then once you reflect on that, think about what you might want to change or embrace or to consider moving forward, so that the second half is just gets better and better. Thanks so much for showing up today, Deenna. Thanks again, and everybody, happy holidays, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you for listening to The Second Half with me, Coach Duprey. Tune in on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month at 8 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio, where you will be encouraged to make connections in your life that will dare you to explore powerful growth personally, vocationally, and spiritually. For more information about me, my courses, my coaching, and my books, and how I can support you on your journey, find me on my website, coachdupre.com. See you next time.